Really quick, I just want to get a show of hands while we get seated. How many people here work for a government agency? All right. How many people work in academia? A couple up there. What about how many people are consultants? How many people work with, like, for a tech company or tech solution? All right, so a pretty good mix. Did I miss anybody?
Manufacturing.
Whoa, manufacturing? Nonprofits, all right. I'm going to do something kind of a little, well actually let's start with a round of introductions. If you can tell me who you are and why are you here?
Thanks, Marcel. I'm Chelsea Richer. I'm a principal at Fair & Peers. We are a consulting firm. We do a lot of work with Metro and cities in the Southern California region. I've been with Fair & Peers since 2013 and have been working on Olympics and Paralympics related preparation work for the last few years.
Apologies. Can you hear me now? Good. Apologies. I'm Bill Panos. I'm the Senior Vice President of Transportation for LA 28, which is the OCOG, the Olympic Organizing Committee here. And who said they were from a nonprofit? Me too.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful day in the city of Los Angeles. My name is Dan Mitchell. I'm one of the Assistant General Managers for the City of Los Angeles Department of Transportation, LADOT, and my responsibilities are project delivery and operations. And in the Olympics and Paralympic Games, my role is to oversee all of the operation side for the Department of Transportation.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
There's a button.
Okay. Now it's better. Okay. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Romain Arny. I work for Choose Paris Region, so I'm a non-profit organization too. And we are here to support international companies that want to set up or expand business in the Paris region. And I'm super happy. Thanks for having me here in LA.
Great, thanks everybody. So as you heard, I think we're ready to really set the stage in terms of the work that we've been doing at Metro, not just Metro on its own, but with all of our regional partners at the city level, with other municipal transit operators to really continue to do and deliver infrastructure work to be ready for the 2028 games. And so I think that is, one of the key foundations. We want to make sure that people are understanding as we're doing this work. But I think that, I'm curious, from the people here in the room, how many people were in Paris? Right, so 4 out of 5. And so that was about a year and a half ago, and change. And I think as we were discussing a little bit, really I think, as we all can acknowledge, all eyes really shifted to LA once those games were over. And so maybe starting with you, Dan, like how has that changed in the last year and a half?
Well, ever since the mayor gave the Olympic flag to Tom Cruise and he brought it over to LA, that there's been kind of a resurgence of energy. I've been involved with planning the Olympic and Paralympic Games in Los Angeles for probably a decade now. But that energy really brought new focus on organization, roles and responsibilities, our legacy. And over the last year, I think really as the venues have been finalized. Yes. Okay. The venues have been finalized.
Yes, they're finalized.
Okay, good. As the venues have been finalized, we've been working with the Secret Service on the secure perimeter and working in various work streams on elements of preparing transportation for the games. I think that really seen a lot of activity, a lot of focus, and a lot of excitement.
Same question for you, Bill. I mean, and Bill, tell us, you've been at this for how many years?
He's asking because he knows the answer. So I've been in my position, I think, for about 4 or 5 months, something like that. And in terms of the way that we're growing, since I started, we've 10x'd our transportation staff. And we'll 10x them again in the first quarter of next year. We'll 10x them again by the second quarter of next year as well. So we are growing very fast and assembling a team from all over the world to put on and to organize with our great delivery partners the Paralympics and Olympics here in Los Angeles. We couldn't be more honored to do that. So that was the answer to your question.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Okay.
And Bill, how's the last 4 months been? I know you're bringing on staff, but you heard Dan talk a little bit more about clarity of roles and responsibilities. I'm just wondering if you want to comment on that as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have an incredible group of people that is engaged in this endeavor, and you can imagine the number and types of people, both in the private sector and the public sector, that are helping put the games together. The games are going to be the largest sporting event in human history. The games will bring 15 million more ticketed spectators here than are here now. 100,000 Olympic athletes and Olympic family members. It'll involve all of the cities, all of Metro, all of LADOT. Most of you, in some way, by the way, let me ask the question. How many of you here were here in 1984 for the Los Angeles Games? Good for you. Me too. You remember how involved the communities across the basin were in the Olympics. They became involved in that games. This is going to be exactly the same way, just in a lot larger scale. Having the Paralympics, this is the first time in the United States that we've had the Paralympics and Olympics together at the same time. This will extend what is the Olympic Games by another 14 or so days. We try and plan around a 30-day window. It's a little less than that, a little more in some cases. But it's a long 7. Let me give you a statistic: 7 Super Bowls a day for 16 days. 2 Super Bowls a day for 14 more days. This isn't one and done. This isn't like a FIFA event or some other event. This is a month of engagement, of resiliency, of sustainability, of mobility, and making sure everyone is safe. And so this is an endeavor that's global scale. You all will participate in some way or another. Please volunteer if you're not with us, but I think that gives you a sense of the size and scale of what we're talking about.
Sure.
One more thing, and it's been fun.
It has been fun. So we've heard a little bit about the city of LA specifically, which is the host city, but we know that there are many other cities that both are hosting venues, but that will also be doing their own activities. And those range in size, right? I think Los Angeles is the largest, but there's a bunch of other ones. And I know, Chelsea, some of the work that your team does is with smaller jurisdictions. So I'm just curious, what's your point of view from working with smaller cities in the region and their preparations?
Yeah. I think it's been really fascinating over the last few years to see grant lists come out, annual grant lists from organizations like Caltrans. If you read through the selected applicants that were granted money in Southern California, maybe 95% of them reference the Paralympic and Olympic Games coming to LA. And so everyone is gearing up their readiness, whether they're venue city or non-venue city, they're gearing up their readiness, their infrastructure, their mobility systems to absorb all of the tourism that you mentioned, all of the visitors, and the global eyes on our city and our region. And so we've really been seeing so much energy and attention sort of directed towards this 2028 deadline, and really creative leveraging of the work that's already on plans, the work that's already in capital improvement program lists, sort of be pivoted or reprioritized so that it has this connective point or this nexus to some games purpose, whether that's a community hub or active transportation infrastructure or first last mile connections to the expanding metro system. We've really seen this incredible sort of pivot of all of the resources that people have in their cities and also that they're going for outside of their cities. A lot of that being sort of focused on readiness for the games. And I think we're now at the exciting point of a lot of that money coming online and seeing how all of that work is going to be delivered in the next 2.5 years.
Is that a good thing, right? The reprioritization of funds for games-related events. You know, I'm just curious, like, are there folks that, from an equity perspective, might not be receiving certain types of resources that are now triggered for the games?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a really important question to be asking, and I think probably in some cases, yes, where there are projects that have really strong need and just haven't found a way to get off the ground, and now they can, and so they're actually fulfilling that equity need because they're pivoting their messaging and the urgency with a deadline of 2028. I think there's probably plenty of cases where we can say, like, that project doesn't really feel like it's serving any sort of long-term purpose for the mobility of our region, but I would say that it's not the vast majority. Like I said, it's a lot of lists and projects and plans that are already passed by jurisdictions, and so it's just picking and choosing the ones that are going to be the most useful for both the legacy of the mobility systems and transportation networks and serve the purpose of getting ready for the games.
I wanted to ask a question because I know people are probably thinking about it, right? I know that, and you know, I think my boss might be here, or she would hear about it, but you know, Metro, I think, has really focused also on their mobility concept plan around really centering equity, right? And so when we look at the work that we've done and the list that we've created, it really is, does this project serve the games? Does it leave a legacy? And is it also addressing equity in it? And so, but it's good to hear, and it's good to kind of continue to have that conversation. And again, I think what I'm observing is folks are using the opportunity of the deadline to like create prioritization to deliver projects, even if they're maybe not for the games, they want to throw the games sticker on it. And I don't think that's a bad thing, right? And so I'm curious, we've talked a little bit about Los Angeles and what we're doing right now to prepare, but I wanted to kind of turn it over to Homa to really talk a little bit about, you know, from when the games were hosted, which I think by all accounts, specifically from a transportation perspective, was a home run. It was like a Dodger World Championship type of event. And so, like, what have you seen since, right? And what is the legacy from the games and the work that you all did in Paris?
Thank you, Marcel. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I get the comparison. Yeah, maybe just to start by saying that you don't build a useful legacy if you don't have a long-term vision and strategy, especially in transportation. In my opinion and experience, the games are a catalyst or an accelerator on some project, but you have to have a vision and a long-term strategy. In our case, in Paris region, we started 20 years ago by a huge project called Grand Paris Express, which will double the size of the metro lines, 200 kilometers, 16 new train stations. It's going to be 32 billion euro of investment. And the games were very useful to, as you mentioned, put pressure on some lines for extension to be ready for the Olympics. But overall, it's just like it was a project before. I wanted to mention maybe two things for the legacy, maybe a more short-term legacy, but we, in Paris and in the Paris region, we made a major leap forward for accessibility. Now, in the Paris region, 95% of the stations are accessible for people with disabilities. Before that, it was a nightmare. Nobody was, okay, it's important, but we don't have the money to do that investment. But the games were like catalyst on that project. So that was first. And the second, maybe short term, and 1 year after, it was very operational, but we had, I guess, in like many big metropolitan areas in Europe, we had a bus driver shortage. So we had difficulties to hire a bus driver. And as we committed to have a 100% public transport accessibility for all sites in the Paris region, all operators, public organizations train and encourage the bus driver training to be ready for the Olympics. And again, at the moment, we are pretty good on the numbers of bus drivers in the Paris region. So and we made other projects you mentioned, but on the urban logistic on the Seine River to build the Olympic Village in Saint-Denis. So we developed a new type of logistic, because it's not only for people, moving people and goods, and other project, but it's I feel a bit nostalgic talking about the Olympics. I guess, guys, you're very lucky to host, and I'm pretty sure that LA, with the creativity, the talent, and the energy, you will do a fantastic job, even if it's a big mission. Yeah.
So one of the things that we noted when we were on the ground in Paris was that all of the favorite, sites, restaurants, bistros that might have been overpopulated during a regular tourist season didn't receive as much, right? It was like, it was more bearable to kind of access those places, which I think was maybe like a slight concern initially. Yeah. But we were just talking about this right now. What does tourism in Paris look like today?
So we are still the first destination worldwide for tourists, and we are with growing numbers. So people saw the Olympics on TV, and some of them came, but and we had a great momentum for sightseeing. People are really wanting to see the sights and the city and the region. But just, I don't know if you remember, but we have the torch. It was like a montgolfier, I don't know the English, but it was a big balloon, and everybody was close to the Louvre Museum, and so at the end of the games and the Paralympic Games, the balloon went outside the city, and Parisian asked for again to have this symbol of the Olympics, and we put it together this summer again for the 1 year. So we put the balloon, and all the tourists and the people in the city were very happy about again a lot of nostalgia, and it was great fun. Yeah.
So it's a legacy, right, of the games, right? And I think, to your point of being very thoughtful, and again, you represent kind of economic development, tourism, highlighting the Paris and the Paris region for that. I think one of the things that you told me backstage that was really interesting is that there's also a concerted campaign to try to create other venues for tourism to kind of spread that love around, right? And as I think about the county and LA County, really getting the opportunity to get people here, but then also to explore other parts of the region and kind of the rich community. I think, Bill, maybe is that also part of the strategy in terms of the venue? Maybe you can talk a little bit about how the games are going to be spread out within the region, and also across the country.
Sure. So, these are good questions. A couple of things. One, this is a national game, and the Paralympics, Olympics are a national event. The torch will actually be moved through all 50 states in the United States. We also have a partner city in Oklahoma City, which is going to host the softball venue, and also competition venue, and also the canoeing competition venue. And they have these amazing facilities down there. In fact, that's an Olympic training facility down in Oklahoma City. So this is one of the first times we've had it structured this way. The logistics are a little more difficult, but we can definitely do it, and we're pleased to bring a national footprint to the games. I think that's one thing. The second is some more statistics. 49 competition venues times 2 non-competition venues. A non-competition venue is like a village where the athletes stay, or a training center where they may be training or something like that. Or a storage facility. We're moving a lot of logistics, a lot of warehousing and things like that. So these are non-competition venues that we still have to be transporting to and from. But what happens is we're spread out as far east as Pomona, and then as far north as the Sepulveda Dam area, and then as far south as my hometown in San Clemente at Trestles for surfing. And because we're spread out all over that area, again, the transportation issues are interesting when you spread out that far, just from a physics point of view. But it does allow for all of Los Angeles to be engaged and all the whole region really to be engaged. And as people come into the region, or from different states or from different countries, they can experience the Olympics in a variety of different ways. And that is unique. That is a unique footprint that the Olympic Games has never seen. And so we're, just last quick thing, we're building sort of 3 architectures for your information. The first is what we call the Olympic family architecture, and that's the safe and secure system of transport for the Olympic family throughout the region and during that period of time. And then the second is our public transport architecture, which is what all of these incredible delivery partners, Metro, LA DOT, SCAG, Metrolink, et cetera, are all engaged in. By the way, I've watched over the last, since the 1984 games, so as the Olympics, watched the incredible asset growth here. There have been great investments in Los Angeles and in its transportation systems, and it's one of the reasons why the games are here. And then the last is something you mentioned earlier, which is travel demand management, which is really looking at how we keep the economy going in Los Angeles and actually improve it over time, but also reduce both freight and non-freight, non-commercial, really cars, let them move around in the basin, but also let the Olympic Games move around as that goes on. And so that's a bit of a challenge for all of us, and that we're working on every single day. I can't thank enough our delivery partners in both City and City of LA. They're doing a great job.
Awesome, thank you. So we went back to Paris a little bit, and for those of us that were there, I'm just curious, Chelsea, like, what was most memorable for you? Like, what did you see them doing well, and some things that we might borrow here in LA?
The general sort of use of public space, I think, Paris has an incredible foundation for that, and so does LA. And I think seeing all of that activated for the games in formal and informal ways was really inspirational, and it really shifted my perspective from this kind of looming deadline in 2028 that we're all working hard towards, to really being excited for working hard towards 2028 and then getting to experience this transformation of our region and the way that we engage with public space here. And I think that was really the most tangible thing, right? Walking around the public streets and things that were closed for the games, partly because of security, partly because of economic development, partly for transportation. Just seeing the crowd sort of engaging with all of those incredible tourism destinations that Paris has to offer. And just kind of mapping how that might look here in 2028, and it just helped me visualize, I think, a little bit better what we were working towards, and bring that sort of civic pride, joyful excitement to the mix, rather than just this sort of looming deadline with a lot of work to do before we get there.
Open space, right? Public space. Bill, like, what's the perspective, right? Like, you're gonna have, getting into some of the weeds, right? There's a venue, there's a security perimeter that is built really by, the federal government, in partnership with you and local law enforcement. And then there's like getting the people in and out of there quickly enough to turn around. Like, what is the role of activating? This kind of goes back to your TBM kind of note, right? Like, do we want everyone, even non-ticketed people, to come to the venues and be outside partying or eating pretzels? Or like, what's your view on that?
That is very specific. I should just say, I shouldn't focus on one venue, but and especially the one right by my house. But Trestles, we expect a lot of non-ticketed spectators to be there, and in fact, we're planning for that. And so there are plans in place for ticketed spectators, of course, detailed plans, very detailed plans for the Olympic family, getting them there, having them have the experience they need to have, and then getting them out. And then, of course, the athletes. I do want to remind you that the athletes are at sort of the top of our safety and security pyramid, because they have to be in the right mental state to be able to perform. This is not something that people think about all the time. They can't have a disruption, or they can't perform, and because they're working at such a high level. And so you can imagine the various types of clients that we have to move through these various areas. But here's what you'll experience. You're going to experience there's going to be an outer perimeter, what we call a middle or an operating perimeter, and then the venue. And there will be different levels of security as you approach those venues. Cars will not be able to get anywhere near the venue. Those will be controlled by the Secret Service and us. And we have designated areas inside of the venue that only certain vehicles can go to. Some people expect, this is what we sort of mean by this is a no driving Olympics. It's really about sustainability and transit first, and really getting Los Angelinos and others to use transit and to get used to transit. I think there's a whole dialogue about that, and it'd be a great topic for this group, about how to get them to do that and talk about that as the legacy and what that's all about. But for this games, because of security and safety, we're going to keep the cars away. And so we're going to build, along with our delivery partners, large systems and use the systems we have to be able to get people in and out. Some of the venues have multiple sessions every day. Let me grab another one, Honda Center in Anaheim. They'll have, I think it's volleyball there. They'll have 3 or 4 sessions a day. And we have to turn those event systems around in about 45 minutes or so, 3 times a day. That's an amazing feat, involving hundreds, if not thousands of people to get them out safely onto public transport and then get the venue reset for the next event. And then make sure that's okay and safe and everything's there, all the concessions, all of that is there. And then bring a whole new set of people in safely and securely, and then do that 3 times. You can imagine the logistical challenges that we're under and why we need so much help from all of our partners. And they're stepping up. I've said it a few times, I'll say it again. They are stepping up all over the region, and certainly even in Anaheim as well, in Orange County, and they're just doing a great job up here in Los Angeles and there as well. So that's kind of what you would experience as you should expect to experience. Same thing in Long Beach, same thing in Exposition, Inglewood, DTLA. We have a number of different venues that have multiple sites. So, and Exposition, you should be able to walk around, and there are other things to do other than see the event, of course. And so you'll be able to, once you're in that secure environment, you're fine. And you can walk around and do all the things that you need to do. Very much like Paris. And this is how all the Olympics are structured, by the way, so that you can do that while you're there. Thanks.
Thanks for that. And so I think that, as we talked about earlier, there's many different cities, and the way they're approaching it, could differ from city to city.
Yeah.
I know that, we in the city of Los Angeles, and I say we because I'm a resident, have a lot of open street events such as Ciclovia. I'm wondering, Dan, from the city's perspective, what is the role of an open street event, in terms of coordinating the games, right? And maybe managing demand or just creating opportunities for celebration.
Well, one of the things that I loved about the games in Paris was the Olympic spirit. And the excitement and the general cooperation and pleasantness and all that, and the celebration sites they had were fantastic. And our streets are powerful places to activate that. And the open streets events that we've had in Los Angeles over the last decade have been, one day at a time, amazing examples of that. Just transportation joy. So we're looking to include that in the 2028 games as well. In fact, our partners at Metro recently had an opportunity, a funding opportunity for that, and I think we were recommended for quite a few of those events. So we see the open streets events as certainly opportunities for celebration, opportunities to be part of the excitement while you're getting from one place to another. And while some of the streets need to be closed already for security purposes, that kind of facilitates that. And dealing with the spillover, what happens post-event, that sort of thing. So we're very excited about using our streets to help build that Olympic spirit and allow people to be with each other during the games, just as they were for the Dodgers parade recently. We saw that when we closed those streets to cars and opened them to people, and in this case, sure, we had some baseball players on some buses, but people came and people got excited and people stayed afterwards. And to bring in 250,000 people on a Monday morning and just to see how excited they were for a sports team, that was just one. And now imagine all the events that we'll have at the games, and it's just really exciting. Looking forward to that.
Thank you. Just to add on to that, as Dan mentioned, Metro did release a funding opportunity and it's oversubscribed, right? So it's a great place to be in, right? With a lot of, and from what I understand, very geographically diverse applications were submitted, and that's the open street kind of call. There are also going to be other opportunities, and maybe Bill, you can talk a little bit about like what does LA 28 looking to want both official fan zones, right? But then also like the difference and watch parties, right? Which is I forget what the brand is for that, 28 or something.
Yeah, I don't want to say and I'll be wrong because they remember all of this is in play now. So we will have fan zones. There will be. I just toured an area at LAX that's going to be an Olympic sort of fan zone like area as people arrive in our arrivals and departures area. And so I can't recite, I don't want to be wrong, the number and where they are and those kinds of things. But if you think about the diversity of the type of events, just the road events alone are going to move through all of Los Angeles, the west part of Los Angeles, and they're not on the same track, so they're all on different paths, and so all of those communities are going to be touched by the Olympics, close to their home. I mean, very close to their homes and businesses, and so I think, and then there will be obviously the places that you go to see an event and that kind of thing. And again, we're thinking about all of the aspects of that, not just being at the event, but going to the event. And remember, from our perspective, the Olympic experience starts when you buy a ticket. The physical experience starts when you land, if you're coming in by plane. And so we want to start having them have that experience at that moment. And so for us at home that are, if we buy a ticket, we want that Olympic experience to start with that app and all of the things that are available so you can see a variety of different things and that you can go to and you can attend. Also, there is a huge amount of commercial partnerships that are you can imagine this brand attracts global commercial partners that'll also have events and sponsor events. Those have not been announced yet, so you'll see those all over the city. And then obviously all the cities. I'm speaking to some city managers later on today, and they are all the city councils and city managers from all over this region are very excited about having their own event for their own community, a sort of a town focus, because all these communities are so different, but in their community, their way, but Olympic themed. And so there's going to be a number of different events. Certainly there's going to be some sponsored by the Olympics as well, the Olympic Organizing Committee. And please don't forget about the, we don't, because it's top of our mind all the time. Remember, it's a month long, so we've also got all the Paralympics. We're going to be bringing in all new and commercial sponsors around the Paralympics, and we're going to have new fan zones around that. And by the way, through all of that, through all of our architectures that I've described to you, through all of these fan zone events, through all of the competition and non-competition venues, accessibility, equity, accessibility having the games for everyone is the key. It's the key to the legacy for Los Angelinos. And so we are deeply planning, and so are our delivery partners, deeply planning these things in very detailed ways to make sure everyone can participate, everyone can go to whatever small event or big event, a neighborhood event or a large block event down the street because it's been blocked off for pedestrians.
Marcel, if I could just add to that,
Of course.
the city of Los Angeles is also planning celebration sites, at least one in each of the 15 council districts in the city. And that is one of these celebratory areas, is one of 9 pillars in the legacy plan that that Mayor Karen Bass recently announced. So she laid out a vision that really exactly what Bill was saying. These are games for all. And so no matter where you live in the city or in Southern California, we see that everyone can take a part.
Well, you guys both gave me a bunch of different ways to go. Why don't we talk about legacy a little bit from the executive directive and 16? I know Metro has a specific one that we're working on with you, but can you talk a little bit about the legacy of transportation through the mayor's pillar?
Absolutely. Maybe I'll just spend a minute to lay out,
Sure.
the bigger vision. So the mayor in her legacy plan laid out 9 pillars organized in 3 groups of 3. So the first is an inclusive city. That's a focus on accessibility, which we talked about a little bit. It's a focus on youth sports as well as human rights. And then a thriving city, thriving games, and that's a focus on business opportunities, jobs, and sustainability. And then the third is a vibrant city, and that's where we get a focus on culture and art, as well as these celebration sites, and then streets and transit. And so it's that last pillar that I'll dig into. So I don't think we've mentioned this, but as part of the Games Agreement, a group of partners, which Bill mentioned earlier, are organized as part of the Games Mobility Executives. So that includes Metro, LA 28, LA DOT, but also Caltrans, the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, Metrolink, and then the LA Mayor's Office as representing the host city. So I think I covered them all. And so the Games Mobility Executives, which started meeting many years ago, are organized into various work streams to help deliver transportation for the games. And supporting that is Mayor Karen Bass's Executive Directive 16 that she recently issued that formalizes an Office of Major Events for the city, and then directs all of the general managers to report to that Office of Major Events for planning and operations for the games. So that sets the structure up to support delivering all of the city services that are necessary. And with regard to transportation, there's a working group focused on city mobility. And in that, there is a direction to help move along over 50 projects that have been identified to help support the games, from mobility hubs to venue approaches, and first and last mile projects, and as well as the integrated transportation management through our coordinated signal systems and so forth, which has been a legacy in Los Angeles from the 1984 games through our ADSAC system.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Technology. I feel like a lot of folks are here in the audience being like, well, how are you leveraging technology to, for the games? I think also you mentioned some of the commercial partners, Bill, that you have on board. I think there have been announcements ranging from Archer in terms of aerial mobility, Uber for the rideshare partner. Just wondering, Bill, if you can talk a little bit about the role of technology for the games and how it's going to be used to really enhance the customer experience. You talked a little bit about buying the ticket, right, or landing at the airport. So just curious to hear from your perspective how technology is going to play a role.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. First of all, the commercial partners bring an element of technology to bear that we would not otherwise have without them. And we are challenging them now as well to do more than they thought that they could do as they come in and are commercial partners. And that's always been a part of the games, and Paralympic Games and Olympic Games, has been these incredible commercial partners bringing technology. The other is the games themselves sort of demand new technology constantly because of the sports. And sport demands, and with these athletes, it demands the use and development and innovation of new technology. Not just measuring technology, but technology around improving their performance, and in some way. And there are, there are actual long-term lectures that folks give, and people study all of the technology that can be applied, nutritional technology and training technology and technology for specific sports, all of which are constant flow in the Olympics and Paralympics, and it's quite something, by the way. I wasn't aware of how large the technology component is inside of global sports. So with that said, I can give you a couple of examples here.
Well, I specifically like technology around mobility,
Sure.
or around customer experience, how people are going to get to the venues,
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Sure. So let me, you mentioned a couple, so let me talk about a couple that we've started with. One is Uber, and you brought up Uber a second ago. As you all know, Uber is a ride-sharing that we all use, a ride-sharing, as consumers, we see them as a ride-sharing sort of company. What they really are is that, for sure, but they also are a very, very large technology company. It's their technology that is actually behind all of the things that are happening around the app that you use and the ride that you consume. It is that technology which we partnered with Uber for. They'll still have their normal ride share along with Lyft and all the others in the variety of different places that they're going to have, given the constraints of the mobility sort of profile that we place out onto the system here. But what we're commercial partnering with them on is their technology, the backbone. This is the first time they've ever shared their technology with anyone, and it'll be with the Olympics in Los Angeles. And so when you go to, the idea is when you go to move around, it's going to consume all of the Olympic information real time, including when venues are out, when they're in. We'll actually have predictive analytics around how many people, where, and it'll actually help us move the Olympic family, and it'll help us send to the app that you would use as a spectator or a ticketed spectator the information, and then even if you weren't involved at all in the Olympics or Paralympics, it will be an upgrade inside of the app that you would have as a consumer, so that you could have all of that. So we're not necessarily borrowing their rides, we're borrowing their tech. And so that's what I mean by asking our partners to do more than they've ever done before, is to bring, for the first time ever, to allow us to see and utilize, and then utilize for the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games, and for all of us that live here, their technology. And it's going to help us in a variety of different ways with buses, and it's going to help us with a number of different things that we are looking forward to. Unfortunately, I can't get into the details of it because It's the first time they've ever used this technology before, but I can say that. I can say that we're not really using their cars or the rides. And I mean, to some extent, I guess at some point in time, we might plug something in, but really what we're getting is the tech, everything that's behind their system inside of the Olympic system.
That's super interesting, and you said you can't get too much into details, but I think one of the, I just remember a presentation that Chelsea did about her experience in Paris and like trying to access directions using apps. Chelsea, you want to talk a little bit about that? And I'm curious, like, because I have a lot of questions on the Uber stuff, but I feel like it's so related, right? Because what if you aren't using Uber? Do you get access to that data for that? So Chelsea, do you want to talk a little bit about what you saw?
Sure, just a quick anecdote. When I was in Paris, and then a colleague was in Paris for the Paralympics after I was there earlier, and we both had the Olympic app, or the Paris 24 app, which gives you directions and connections, real-time closures of the stations and road closures, walking times and distances, checked that against Google Maps directions, very similar, incorporated and ingested some of those same street closures and station closures. I believe the Paris 24 app also incorporated an element of accessibility where it showed which of the stations were accessible for wheelchair users and provided a wheelchair accessible route if needed. And then Apple Maps, which was my colleague's map platform of choice, gave a totally different set of directions, travel times, modal connections. And so between those three platforms, we basically got three different sets of information that all got us there in the same way, but in different times and with different levels of ease and connectivity. So yeah, I mean, definitely a question that comes to mind for me is, Uber is not my current app of choice for that, but are we all going to be kind of pushed in that direction to consume that information through Uber's app?
Yeah, no. So there will be obviously an LA28 app when you sign up for it, and certainly when you buy tickets. The vision that we have, we're not done yet. And I should say, we just announced also Google as a huge global sponsor to the Olympics and Paralympics. So we're actually going to merge these technologies. We're trying to avoid what happened in Paris by taking all these platforms and merging them into the app. So the LA20 app. So you have one app to go to, one source of truth. And that there isn't any sort of confusing information out there. And all you have to do is go to the LA28 app, and it gives you all of those sources in one place. That's another unique thing, by the way, that's never been done in Olympics before, bringing all these various platforms together into one place. Now, could there be conflicting information because you have a different app or you're running on? I guess, and we're going to try and avoid that, but we're building a system in the LA28 app that takes in all the Google data, and that takes in and that includes, by the way, Waze and all that stuff, and then includes all of the Uber technology as well. And Uber is really about logistics of wayfinding and where we're going to put, certainly where we're going to put buses and cars, so it's really for our Olympic family use in a variety of different ways, but it will help with others. But we're going to try and build all of that and integrate all of that into one app, so you don't have the same problem in Paris. One of the things that they do in the Olympics, the IOC and NOCs do really, really well, but the IOC particularly, they actually have a really good process to see what happened before and to always not replicate that problem and then improve it to the next one and the next one. I mean, it's not a small task. They have large amounts of resources that go to that, and so we are learning constantly from each games. In fact, we're on our way to Milan and to Cortina for the winter to do the same thing and to see what's working, what's not. And then we're actually plugged into all the events that are about to come up here in Los Angeles to see what's working and what's not, including, by the way, the Dodger Parade, which went well, and see what's working and what's not in detail, and plug that into our experience as well. So you should have one.
I did like the Paris 24 app, to be clear. I thought the accessibility directions was a really nice, unique feature that you don't really get on Google Maps or any of the other ones.
You're right, but there was some very confusion about the people. The trust was the official application, but yeah.
Marcel, can I chime in on that as well?
Please.
Yeah, and I think that my experiences in Paris was similar. I think even the transit agency had their own app as well, so there were lots of different sources, and it wasn't necessarily right or wrong, just different ways to approach and being involved in special events. We know that sometimes the best way is not necessarily the shortest way, or the fast way, or the best way overall to bring people in or out of a venue may not be the shortest or fastest for each individual person. It may be counterintuitive to go around to another exit, but ultimately helps distribute everyone around. Google is also a partner of the City of Los Angeles, where we use Gmail and the Google products. And so we've also been in conversation with Google even prior to them becoming a partner of LA28 to focus on some of those challenges that come from the underlying information that their algorithm is using to make decisions. So sometimes, a path that looks like a really straight and fast, direct way of getting someplace looks that way because it's actually closed, and so nobody's on it. And so having the underlying information, and at least in the City of Los Angeles for special events, it's one of my teams that's involved in actually doing those road closures, restrictions, and so forth. And so getting that information into Google in ways so that their algorithm can then help map the best way to go, whether you're going by transit or by foot, by bike, or by car, that you're being routed in a way that is going to be efficient, but also makes sense overall to the event scheme.
So I'm gonna let you answer, or make a comment, and then I'm gonna go to questions real quick. We have about 10 minutes left, and I wanna hear from the audience.
Yeah, very quickly, we talked a lot of mass transit, public transportation, but we didn't talk so much about bike. And back to Paris, I'm a bike rider in race, and I think I had the superpower during the Olympic Games because I can go through security, the road were closed for the cars, and we had a parking dedicated in front of the venue. It was good. It was people take care of the bike, and it was fantastic. I never experienced other type of event like that in Paris, but I don't know if I have a wish for the LA28 is everything related to bike is. I feel like I had superpower with my bike. Yeah.
I rode my bike here today, electric bike. I want to take some questions from the audience. I want to start with, does anybody have a bicycling micromobility question? You do? Bicycling micromobility? Go for it.
Well, I introduce myself. My name is Bernard Bello. I grew up in Barcelona, and I remember the first Olympic I was a little kid was 72. Yeah. And I relate to what you said when they don't feel safe, it's a big issue. Obviously, I remember the one in Barcelona that the city has become really attractive. And going back to micromobility, and today, I actually live in San Diego, I took the Metrolink, and then I waited for an hour to get here because the metro has some issues. Not to be negative, but that's what happened to me. So I often, and I came from Japan, I went to a micromobility show, and they showed me the city of the future that was built by a guy from Denmark that studied in Barcelona. So I saw how they had the promenades and all these things. So related to micromobility, to me, as a European that have been here for a long time, the most impressive thing that LA has is riding your bicycle from Redondo Beach to Santa Monica. And I think when Tom Cruise came from Paris, whatever, he went there. Because then you see this essence, you see the difference and the change. So to me, something will be amazing for somebody like him that like to ride bikes. Have that opportunity that a lot of people, if they wanted to walk or ride, they could actually use that path that you guys have, make it bigger or smaller, wherever you want, and then have that access, right? And I have seen it, I have cities like Vienna that I really like, and I see how you can actually use your it's interesting because Lime and wherever.
Is there a question in there?
Yeah. So the question that I have to ask you about this is that are we going to have lines where you can use either have your app connected to your scooter, to your bicycle, and to the metro? you know, and maybe use some of these things? That's my question. It might come up.
Well, I will take a shot at that. And first of all, I apologize for your hour delay, but there are operational challenges happen, and having different options to get from one place or another is really important. So if you're at Union Station, it's probably like a 15-minute walk over here, so there's no reason to wait an hour, but there's also great bicycling micromobility connections. So we partner with Metro with a bike share program, and then we've spent over the last decade made a major investment in re-envisioning our streets to support walking, biking with micromobility as well. So definitely for the games, we have first last mile projects that we're working towards to help make critical connections in our system. And then we also talked about the open streets opportunities that are going to be coming as well. So I also loved biking in Paris during the games. It was great, and direct access. And so we're looking to create that. We probably won't be able to accomplish exactly what they had because our city's a little bit more spread out. But with the same idea to give people options to get to the games, around the games, and to celebration sites and popular areas, in a way that helps bring them joy and celebrate the games.
Awesome. Any other questions?
With the LA28 app, will there be an opportunity to maybe not like actually do an integration with stuff, but have like Lime or Circuit, we're all partners here for this event, like when it's operating in other cities, like link to those or something? Like what's the way that's going to work? It just like obviously a full integration doesn't make sense, but something, especially because Lyft and Uber are competitors. Like, do you guys have to choose one, or since you're so ubiquitous, can you be wherever you want?
Yeah, the intention is to have all of the mobility options available on the app, so that you can choose. The idea is choice here, and so if you're wanting to walk, bike, take a scooter, an electric scooter, drive whatever, take transit, that you have clear understanding of what the current conditions are, and where to engage that transit, whatever it is, and that mobility, whatever it is, and it watches you as you go, so it makes sure that you have a continuous feed as you go. And one of the things I wanted to say is that we're going to mark, like the updates are going to be in seconds, so it's not going to be like, it updates once a day or something. It's going to update constantly, and you're going to see the last, when the last update was. But again, we're putting all that together now, so I don't know exactly how all of that's going to work, but we have a large transportation component in that architecture that we're building through right now. Yeah, it'll include micromobility and accessibility, by the way.
But I feel like it's like a cliffhanger. Like you're gonna have to come back here next year to get the update, right?
Yeah.
Tina.
Hi, quick. I'm going to pretend like I don't know a lot of the answers to those questions, but one in particular, Bill, you're talking about this app, which I know I have a great vision for, and it sounds like it's going to be able to do some wonderful things, and I'm so grateful for it. I know there's a lot of competing apps, people wanting to, put together their own app, Olympics related. You talked about this app is going to have all of the various mobility aspects involved, incorporated into it. Will it also have the ability for payment in there? So, like a pass, for example.
Yeah, this is a really good question. As it relates to transportation, I'm not sure yet, and I'm not sure with the extent to which we are going to do that. You certainly are going to be able to, buy tickets and other Olympic things through that. So we have the foundational platform there to do some of that, but we're not through all of our, not just design of the tech, but also our agreements with all the partners yet. And so as those come online, our goal is to make it as easy as possible. Our goal is to make it a single source of truth. Our goal is to make it, if we can, as much as we can, a one-stop shop we have lots of really good models to go by from other Olympics. And so we're gonna copy what worked, and what didn't work, we're gonna improve upon. But all of that said, we should see something in the first couple of quarters of next year for some sort of an app. The reason is tickets go on sale. And once they go on sale, that we need to have as much of those components together as we can. We will fill in, obviously, as the months move along, but I think you'll get your first vision of that when tickets go on sale in the first, I think you can reserve in the first quarter, and then they go on sale actually in the second quarter of the year, next year. And so you'll see more about it then, and then we'll keep working on it. And as we get input from y'all, we'll try and design it in there as we go. But we're trying one source of truth, one app to do everything, and obviously there's going to be lots of choices out there, but and to try and do everything in one place, yeah, that's going to be our intent.
And I think to add to that, right, like I know LA Metro, several other GME members, they also care about the legacy of these things, right? And so, as someone mentioned earlier, we're really moving towards open loop payment. We are doing an app consolidation ourselves. We're in the middle of that process, selecting kind of the vendor. But the idea is that we're working in lockstep with LA28, you know, and we're saying, hey, this is important to us, and you know, as long as legal mumbo jumbo doesn't get in the way, like I think we want to make sure that there's a legacy of the experience that people had, not just for those who had tickets, but who who came to LA for the first time, because that's the number that's not really talked about a lot. There's 15 million tickets. Ticketed people, but then there's also all the people who just want to come for the event and be around, right? And so I have, were we at time? Or we got time for 2 more questions, no? One more? I'm gonna go right here, I'm sorry. Is it a question?
Yes.
All right.
I'm Sharon Toji, and I'm a voting delegate for over 30 years on the American National Standards Institute that writes standards for accessibility. And I'm very curious. I feel I have knowledge, hopefully, to impart, because I've always said if I can ever find a correct restroom sign any place, I'm going to break out the champagne, and I'd like that not to be the case for this Olympics. So I'm here to help. How do I best get a list, a contact list of people like you,
Yep.
so that I can
I will connect you. Oh, wait.
talk about this? And
Is this from me, or I need to take the
yeah,
information
you
right?
can take it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there
that's my
is,
question.
part of one of the subcommittees for the GME is there's an accessibility subcommittee, and that is being led by the City of Los Angeles Accessibility Coordinator. Metro also has an accessibility plan, and so that's where a lot of it is happening. We've presented to the US Access Board and provided updates to them, but I think that's something that we want, it's an ongoing conversation until we get there. And I'm gonna take this last question because she was very patient.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm interested in this, using the Olympics as a driver for behavioral change. So I wonder if there's been if you have measured any changes in model split in Paris, long-term effects, and if you are expecting any such in LA.
Well, that's certainly our focus. It's our hope that we can show people, visitors and residents alike, that there are better, more efficient, more enjoyable ways to get around, and that transit isn't just a last option if you can't afford a car or your car's not available to you, but it actually can be bicycling, walking, and a combination of those can be a wonderful way to get around the city and leverage the investments that LA Metro and the City of Los Angeles have been making over the last decade.
I wanted to add to it. My family's been here since the 1920s, and I never rode public transit before now. And I have to come in from San Clemente every day into downtown LA. I ride the Metro Link, and I also ride the A-Line, the Metro A-Line, to my office, to the front door of my office, or pretty close to the front door of my office. And it's the best thing I ever did. I can relax, I can work on the way in, work on the way out. I have a better frame of mind when I get to work. I have a better frame of mind when I get home from work. It is so much easier. I feel safer because I don't have a lot of, sort of anomalies going on around it, or risk anomalies going on with trucks and people and cars doing crazy things on the road. I don't have any of that, and it has given me a peace of mind that I've never had before. And if we can take that and make that part of the legacy, and then also on top of that, and inclusive of that, create a more accessible system, meaning a system that everyone can use regardless of their mobility challenges. We've got something there. And if you were here in 1984, we're taking advantage of something that happened back then. It happens at all the Olympics. The community, a switch went off in this community, and they all became Olympians. It was a very weird thing, and I remember it. And the people that were here in '84 shaking their head, yeah, I remember, because we all wanted to be part of the games. And if we can have them be part of the games and use transit, public transit, we've got something there that I think will last a lot longer than just the games itself for a legacy inside of the greater Los Angeles area.